Welcome, folks who are joining us here. I want to say thank you for joining us today. We are going to get started here in just a minute. We're going to let a few more people join, and then we'll get started. Welcome, everyone who's joining us. I want to say thank you for joining us today. We are going to wait just a minute or two more before we get started and let a few more people join. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this workshop, The Future is Short, Business Growth Through Short Form Video. I want to say thank you to Dean for joining us today. He's here to present a workshop with SCORE just on using short video and marketing and how to really get your mind around what it takes to make a good short video and short video series. And I want to say thank you to Dean for joining us today. And if you're not familiar with SCORE, we provide small business workshops just like this one and one-on-one business mentoring completely free. We're funded in part by the SBA, where we can provide these services. So if you'd like a SCORE mentor, please feel free to reach out and we can get you signed up today. And with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Dean. Thank you, Dean.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you. And I would just first say thank you to SCORE. I have used SCORE's services in the past as a young entrepreneur and found it very helpful. There's a lot of resources under that organization that I think can really benefit people really at any stages of their entrepreneurial journey. An entrepreneurial journey, the hero's journey, that's what we are about documenting at Hero Media Network. And, you know, I really want to convey to you our enthusiasm for short form video, the power of that format. I think all of us as consumers are aware of what it is. We're consuming more and more of that every day, it seems. But it really is a powerful tool that can transform your business, and we see it all the time. Again, I am founder of Hero Media Network. I'm located in Wayne, Maine, a beautiful small town just west of Augusta. I've had an agency for about 10 years, I guess, and just sort of given the fact of where we are in rural Maine, most of our customers have always been, behind the counter, mom and pop, small businesses. And there's a great affinity for businesses like that, for people who step out on their entrepreneurial journey. And short form video really over the last couple of years has emerged as an equalizer, against larger corporate interests and really any kind of competition. So this is not scripted, as you can tell already. This is going to be a full-on ramble. I'll tell you what I'll tell you. It's about the power of story, right? This is organic content. It's your why you do what you do and expressing that through video. Very powerful tool, and one that only you possess. We'll talk about the dominance of short form video. I'll show a couple of statistics for you that I think are pretty telling, and then really get into what to film, how to film, just getting started. And that's what I hope your takeaway is from this today. This is unscripted, a full-on ramble to say, but I really hope to get to the question and answers and hear what your pain points are, and really try to get you to feel more confident in getting started. That's what we hear from most of our clients is, I'm not good with technology. I don't like myself on camera. I wouldn't know what to say. My customers aren't on those platforms. And I would say all of that is untrue. Anybody can do it. And it's all in your pocket. You have a mobile film studio in your pocket. The power of story, that really is, again, the crux of it all. I think in this day and age, and you as consumers probably would agree, we want an emotional connection with the businesses that we patronize. And this is a great example from TikTok. I'll talk a lot about TikTok. All of these platforms are accepting the same short form video. And by that, I mean 9:16 vertical that fills the phone, right? TikTok like. I love TikTok. And this is a great example from TikTok last fall. Talk About Joy's is a classic strip mall Mexican restaurant outside Chicago, sort of, two parking spaces and 3 tables. A classic journey. Again, I learned the story through their content. She was an immigrant woman who married a Mexican man and started making the recipes of her mother-in-law. And somebody said, hey, this is great. You should open a restaurant, right? And she did. And as they approached the holidays, times were tough and they were facing some financial pressures. Her daughter said, let's do some TikToks. And that's the one that blew it up on the left. It's only about 8 seconds. Her face is not even in it. It's just text over video, basically very heartfelt, very authentic, sort of where are the customers? And it went crazy, right? Within 4 days, 35 million views, 66,000 comments. The local news showed up. On the right there, the food reviewers showed up. She got a national hit on Rachel Ray. It led to all sorts of follow-up content. And I think most telling in this example are the comments themselves. I think a knock against a lot of social media, maybe you've heard in the past, is, yeah, great, all these likes and comments are terrific, but are they really coming through my door? And given the new interest-based and location-based algorithms specifically for TikTok, they are serving content, popular content, to people in your area. So if you scroll through comments on a post like this, a lot of them are like, hey, this is right down the street from where I live. I didn't know this was there. I'll be right over. And the line was out the block overnight. And they immediately, transformed the business, right? The hockey stick of revenue went right up, and they started talking about a second location. Obviously, it's a classic viral hit that is possible. You can't predict it. You can't rely on it. And that's really not the point of this story. It's about beginning a conversation and being consistent about it, which we'll talk about. But the beauty of this is she didn't have an existing following, right? This is basically out of the gate. I think this is her 3rd or 4th TikTok. But again, these algorithms are interest-based, location-based. The currency is content, right? If your content is real, if it's authentic, if it resonates with people, it's served to a smaller group. And if they like it, it's served to a larger group. And you don't need that existing following to get started. Great, a Mexican restaurant in Chicago, that's terrific. But is there a local example you can point to? Yes, there is. This is Cider's Woodcrafting in Brewer. And he had another classic entrepreneurial journey. I love these. He quit 2 jobs a few years ago to start a woodworking business. And again, hopped on TikTok. And this is one of those, several million views on this one. And he was sort of on his way, developing a fan base locally and around the world, right? That's what these distribution platforms can do. And he had a fire in his shop soon after this. And his TikTok fans rallied around and did a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter and really saved his business. I talked to him a couple of months ago as I was preparing this material, and he said flat out, if not for TikTok, I'd be out of business. He continues today in sort of a classic sense. In a few slides, we'll get to how he approaches this. But it's great to see. I'll tell you that story in a minute. this is organic content we're talking about versus paid, right? Paid and organic. Organic is just picking up your phone and telling your story, producing content to whatever degree you feel comfortable, but it's not a paid placement. You know, it's not a Facebook ad or a Google click ad where you're choosing your audience and your location and you're paying, which is really quite extraordinary. You know, when I grew up, if you wanted to promote your business, you had to pay. You had to take out a radio ad or a TV ad or a billboard, a newspaper, right? These are extraordinary platforms that can put you in front of customers locally and around the world just by being real. And you can't fake that. Again, that is your superpower as an entrepreneur, as a small business, as somebody who is passionate about what they do. I went to a chain restaurant in Lewiston the other night for, you know, some wings, and it was a great experience, just like I knew it would be, because it's very consistent. But I'm looking around the place, there's nothing for me to grab onto. There's no story. I don't know who the chef is. I don't, you know, there's no local flavor. And that is what people, I think, as consumers want to engage with, want to hang on, want to patronize. And that's what you can do. Small business support is hot. I think this really was sparked out of the pandemic, right? Remember all the talk about essential workers and the local economies, and, you know, suddenly all the restaurants were doing takeout. Hey, it's important to support our small business. That has stuck with us, I think. Speaking for myself, I'm sort of tired of corporate America and the noise and the politics and the celebrity and the, you know, show me what's real. And that is what we as small business entrepreneurs really can tap into with these tools. And you have all you need in your pocket. Again, you're paying a monthly subscription to what really is a film studio, and we'll show you how to use it. It's got to be on your phone because that's where we are. And these are some pretty telling statistics. I think if you're a parent, you've heard stuff like this before. You know, average daily smartphone screen time, 3 hours and 15 minutes. You think, how is that even possible? You know, and I guess it's broken down by how many times we pick up the thing, right? Speaking for myself, I'm often checking my email before my feet hit the floor, I'm sorry to say, you know, and then throughout the day, I'll check my social media, I'll check my email. Oh, just a second, pop over to TikTok. I got a couple minutes to kill. We all do it, right? And so how do we get to 3 hours and 15 minutes? We pick it up on average 58 times. And I believe that, actually. And you might as well. 70% of them are for less than 2 minutes, right? It's become that habit of just pulling it out. Couple there, three on the bottom. There are plenty. You know, give it a Google, you'll be amazed. You know, 52% of internet users who watch social media, watch social media videos every day, right? They're all about us. 80% are more likely to purchase a product after watching a video. 1,200% more likely to share. Nobody reads anymore, right? It's just as even when we hit a website, where's the play button? How can I engage, you know, visually? You would recognize these as social media icons. We prefer to call them publishing platforms because that is really what they are. These are just four, and there's LinkedIn, there is Pinterest, there is Lemonade is a new one. New ones are coming all the time. And for the first time ever over the last couple of years, again, they are all taking the same piece of content. So producing one video on your phone, and you can produce it within the app or locally on your phone. We'll talk about that. But you can put the same piece of content on these and others and have a chance to reach your audience, to let the algorithms work for you to find your audience, and it will. Just a few quick highlights, characteristics of these. If you're familiar, you know, and if I'm inspiring you to jump in, you'll learn. TikTok really is a unique algorithm because of that interest in location. It's really amazing. It's an enjoyable experience, you know, as a consumer, because it gets to know your preferences and it feeds you things that are interesting, right? It's all about time on platform, so it does its job very well. But it's turning into a great search engine. You know, pick a topic from, you know, local news, national news, you know, go up to the search bar, type it in, and instead of text-based Google articles like we used to do, you'll be served short form videos that are produced by real people. And it's very engaging. In fact, 40% of Gen Z prefers Google, prefers TikTok over Google for search. Pretty stunning. YouTube Shorts. This is YouTube. This is the granddaddy of all. It's the second largest search engine in the world. It's owned by Google. There's a certain cachet, or maybe that's not quite the right word. There's a permanence to YouTube. Once you post something there, it's always there. You can go a little bit longer content. Once you're there, it's always there, even years later. There's something sort of fleeting about TikTok. Yes, you can follow, your favorite users and go back through their back catalog. But, you go to YouTube and you search for something, you can gather thousands, millions of views over time, specifically if you're talking about, an evergreen interest, right? How to do something. So that's a great one. And they are embracing YouTube Shorts. Again, vertical video. It's under the same app. If you've got the YouTube app on your phone, there's regular YouTube, which is, horizontal landscape. And then there's YouTube Shorts. Same idea. Facebook, increasingly engaging with short form video. Instagram, these are prevalent. Everybody's got a Facebook or an Instagram account. If your customers are on social media anywhere, they are probably there, and you are as well. We look at a lot of small business websites. If they have any social media icons, it's Facebook. So this is a fun little graph from Wistia. If you get sent the slides after, spend a little time with this. It's just kind of fun to show that all roads really do lead to social media. Do your customers enjoy social videos? Yes. Do you want to entertain, inform, and delight your audience? Yes. Does your target audience use social media? Yes. Then yes. And even if you follow the no ones, it's like, watch some puppy videos and try again. Like, we are there. And intuitively, this, right? Perhaps I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But again, there is this trepidation that we find for businesses to get started. I am an introvert by nature. Selfie video is hard, right? To hold your phone up and go, okay, now I need to talk about my business, is a hump to get over. And so I want to sort of break it down into buckets of content, right? And here are 4 primary ones, with variations and gray areas in between. But I think this makes the point. Number 1, it's your story, biographical. How did you get into this? How did you start your business? Why? What do you love about it? Well, my grandfather taught me how to do this, craft, or this is my grandmother's recipe, or my mom, I grew up cooking with mom, whatever it is. Again, that's that thing that ties us to local business. We see a piece of ourselves in others. When, storytelling is as old as humankind, right? It does make a connection. What's it really like? Again, if you're a pizza restaurant and you want to, for instance, and you want to hop on social media, where did you get your recipe? Oh, it's my grandmother's. It's refined by, Friday pizza night, whatever that story is, that's valuable, right? It's that, oh, what I have to say is not interesting. That's just not true. However mundane you might think it is. That's the authentic content. Educational. You are the subject matter expert. What kind of tomatoes do you use in your pizza sauce? What's the best kind of cheese? What's the temperature of your ovens? Woodworker, we'll talk about ciders again in a minute. It's what sort of jigsaw bits are you using, right? There are people that are interested in the nuts and bolts of what you do. Great, area to mine. Entertainment. This is fun. It could be simple and fun as well. If you're on TikTok, we're aware of trends. Others have it as well. Just a quick piece of music, right? Or a fun little light thing, tossing your pizza dough in the air, right? It's something that's visual, that's auditory, that's engaging. That's enough. And then I think the neat thing about social media that's possible is that it can be episodic, right? You're telling your story over time. Again, back to my agency, we've been doing biographical documentary style video for small business for a number of years, but our format was always horizontal, 2 minutes, cinematic. This is your story, and it gets put on your homepage or your About Us page. It's good for trade shows. It's a great legacy piece. And people really enjoy seeing themselves that way. Fun to do. There's value in that, but it's not every day, right? Again, the way we are consuming media now, instead of 2 minutes, you could do 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 3-4 times a week, however much you can do. Turning your business essentially into a reality show, building in public is sort of a phrase you might have heard, or get ready with me, sort of, I'll bring you along on our journey. This, I'm looking for an employee. This is my new employee. Meet my new employee. Here's a new shipment of things. Here's a new menu item. And then people, hey, there's that guy talking about that thing. What's new? Very effective and really, a powerful element of these platforms. And posting frequency, as much as you can, really. There are some on TikTok, as you get into it, they say, oh, you should be posting 3 times a day, 5 times a day at these specific times. Other people will say it doesn't really matter because it's the quality of the content, right? First and foremost. I would just say as much as you can. You can't have too much, really, especially with all these platforms, because you might, as you get into it a little bit more, you might find some content is great for LinkedIn, right? It's a little more professional. It's a little more on point to what you do versus, TikTok, we're just having fun. So you can explore that. Back to ciders. This is Bruce Graybill. A fantastic conversation with him, again, not too long ago. In fact, I was opened up TikTok this morning, and there he was doing a TikTok live. It was 8 in the morning, and he was building something, and he was interacting with his fans, with his customers around the world, talking about what shows he's going to be in on, and and then it's like, oh, that's my alarm. I got to get back in the house and get the kids on the bus. Right? It's that biographical, right? Top left, first bucket. He introduces us to his wife and his kids, and not just in the shop, but a little bit about his life and his dog. And as much as you feel comfortable with, we want to get to know you. Again, that's what's possible. That's your secret weapon over any sort of corporate big box you can name. The wing restaurant I went to, right? I'm not interested in that story, and they don't have a story to tell. But Bruce can introduce me, right, to what he does. The educational tier, tell me about the jigsaw bits, right, and the kinds of woods or the kind of varnishes you use. Like me, as if I'm a woodworker, the algorithm will serve me his content, and I'm really gonna get excited about what he's teaching me. How can he improve what I do? Entertainment, he's a character. He said, when I really just sort of let my guard down and just became myself, and I'm a bit of a goofball, he said, my engagement went way up. So he'll put on a funny hat and just kind of goof around, and that's a TikTok trend, right, that you'll see, and he just layered that on top of his business. It's fun. And then the episodic piece, does a lot of trade shows or craft shows. So he'll say, hey everybody, I'm going to be in Freeport this weekend, and then when he gets there, he'll show you how he's setting up his booth. And he'll hop on again and say, oh, I'm down in booth 117 down in the corner. And, if you're following along, that'll pop up and go, oh, yeah, he's in my town, or I've been meaning to check him out. It's that dialogue. That's what you're trying to do, is create a conversation. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't need to be cinematic. It just needs to be real. Some of the stuff in the bottom, I mentioned the TikTok live, he's selling stuff while he's talking about it. Hashtags and captions, I don't want to get too deep into that, but that's a concern for him. He's watching his analytics, right? He's making a study of it. He'll say, told me, the educational piece, when I talk about my router bits, I get a lot of engagement, but they're not necessarily buying my boards, right? So he'll do a piece of content aimed for that through hashtags. And then when he's trying to sell something, he'll hashtag, modern kitchen or, contemporary design, that kind of thing. But he's aware of how his content performs, which again, you can get into as you go. And I think it'll be fun for you. So pillars of content, working example from one of your neighbors. And again, back to that earlier slide, if not for TikTok, I wouldn't be in business. He does about 20% of his business online, and about 90% of that, he said, came from TikTok. Okay, again, yes, I've convinced you. It's important. I have an idea of what to talk about, perhaps, hopefully. How do I do it? Okay, it really is all about your phone. If you have engaged in video in the past, hired a videographer, they can show up with lights and gear and all kinds of stuff. It really is not necessary. That's one of the liberating things about these platforms. It doesn't have to be great. It just needs to be real. It just needs to be out there. So whatever phone you have, I put post 2020, but If it still works and in your pocket, it's good enough, right? Any phone these days can shoot 1080p. That's, basic high definition. We've done some great stuff with a client's iPhone 7. So whatever you have is fine. You want to be capturing footage, right? Either of yourself, like this goofball, or turning the camera around, what we call B-roll, right? Shooting what you do, your place of business, your craft, even your computer screen, right? If you are, you sit in front of a computer all day, do screenshots, right? Ways to illustrate what it is you do. So you've got you talking and you've got you illustrated somehow, and getting a friend to help you do that is great. If we want to watch you roll in the dough, get an employee, get your niece, your nephew, a neighbor to hold your phone like we do, right? And that stuff is probably already on your camera roll, you in action. We need to edit that, right? And slicing and dicing, not overwhelming. You can really get into it if you want, but in the app, there's ways to do that very easily, or out of the app. And we'll talk a little bit more about this with what we call nonlinear editors, Final Cut Pro, right? Adobe Premiere. And again, gear, you can get as much gear as you want, but you don't need any more than what you already have. Techniques, visual approach, frame design. This is my favorite, often overlooked, just out of enthusiasm, right? And we've all done this. You grab your phone and you point it to, oh, there's the puppy, there's the plant, there's the thing. And then you look at it and go, oh, I could have gotten a little bit closer to that, right? It is a frame. We call it a frame for a reason. You're putting edges around what you're looking at. So I think we're more visually sophisticated than we realize because we watch a lot of stuff. But it's almost like, again, overcoming that enthusiasm for what you're shooting. It's literally looking around the edges of the frame to say, am I filling the frame? Am I close enough? That's the biggest sin, probably, is that we just don't fill the frame well enough. Is there a lamp post sticking out of somebody's head? Is there something sort of ugly creeping into the frame that if I were to take a step to the left or a step to the right, it's a little bit cleaner? And, whether you have a history of photography and videography or not, you can sort of feel it, right? It'll just sort of click into place. Oh, that's a nice frame, right? The old rule of thirds, a nice balanced frame is really important. And it's not hard. You just got to sort of consciously think about it. Shot variety. You're telling a story, ideally. Again, selfie video is fine. That's a good place to start. But if you start really wanting to convey your business, your employees, your entrepreneurial journey, shot variety, wide, medium, and close-up is sort of the basics of a breakdown. This is an independent jeweler that we worked with outside of Houston. Set the scene, right? This is my storefront on the street, back. This is my shop. Okay, he's working by himself in his shop. A little bit closer, medium. Oh, I get a sense for what it is he's doing. You're cooking something, you're in the kitchen, you're whatever it is. And then the close-up, right? Again, filling the frame. We use a lot of hands, a lot of eyes, a lot of furrowed brows, right? Because they just really convey emotion. So again, a conscious approach to how do I want to assemble this story and really give the viewer context to bring them where I am, to give them the full picture. And again, we know this, we watch a lot of stuff, right? And it's just when you're behind the camera, it's sort of a mental checklist of how to capture your footage. Camera movements. You certainly don't need to memorize all these. The point is move the camera in one direction and move it slowly. Dolly is to move towards a subject, often referred to as zoom, which really is just keeping the camera steady and moving in like you can do with a pinch. Don't pinch because it adds digital noise. The old photographer term is zoom with your feet, right? Move in, up and down, left and right, even rolling around is kind of a contemporary thing. All of it's fine. Just do it very smoothly. And I think what's really distracting, and I see too often, is again, people are excited and they just want to show me everything there is to see at once without an edit. And that can be very disorienting. So again, simple approach, just very as smooth as you can do it. Stabilization is part of that. Many new phones have built-in stabilization. You can buy gimbals and all kinds of things. again, if you want. But the one piece of gear outside of phone that I would really recommend that you have is a tripod. You can get these for $20 on Amazon or Best Buy or wherever. If you're going to be doing a lot of talking, you can get ones with ring lights. There's one with a gooseneck there in the middle, but it really does stabilize things, especially if you're filming a process, right? It's you doing something. If you don't have somebody there to help you, even if you do, it's nice to just set that up. So that's the one thing that I think outside of your phone is a sort of a must-have. Backlighting or lighting in general. Again, I think this is something we intuitively know or can recognize if we take a second to think about it. Where is the light source? It should be at your back, pointing towards your subject. Here is a storefront from a client with a bike shop in Venice Beach, California. If you have a sort of a Main Street storefront, right, with big windows, it's a fantastic light source. Just be aware of where it is. If I'm looking into the shop there, you see on the left, the colors are more saturated, it's more even. When you turn it around and it's backlit, right, the light is behind the subject, it's very contrasty, lots of shadows, it doesn't pop well enough. In particular with interviews, right? If you are doing selfie video or interviewing somebody, don't stick them in front of a window because they're going to be too dark. The camera sensors are really good and they can cover, a lot, but it's always just best practice to know where the light is. Shade is always great. If you're outside, turn on lights. If you're inside, turn off lights. Experiment and just really be aware of where that light is hitting the subject. And finally, I think you as a sign up, Dan will send you, our guide, or sort of our shooting guide, and there's a few other, tips and tricks in there. So you've got your footage, your variety of footage, and it's a matter of assembling it, post-production. So each one of these apps, Facebook, TikTok, you can edit inside the app. You can take something right from your camera roll and just sort of slice it up a little bit and do it right from within your phone. CapCut is a great one that works very well with TikTok. Captions is another, for the captions that you see, that's very engaging. So doing it natively inside the app, you edit it and you post it and it's done. If you do it outside of that, then you have a piece of content that you can put on all of these different platforms, right? It's much more versatile, much more useful. So there are web-based editors, and again, these are some good ones that I've used. Google it, and you'll see many others, and more coming faster now with AI, which we can talk about a little bit. But Kapwing is a good one. Canva is very intuitive, right? So you are taking your existing camera roll and editing it outside of the social media app. And then if you really want to get into it, Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro, available on a subscription basis. Now you're talking about real craft, which you might find very enjoyable. That's sort of the scalpel approach versus sort of the hammer. And I don't mean to denigrate that, but that's just a professional tool, right? Those two in particular. Hashtags, captions, I talked a little bit about that. As you get into the platform, you'll learn a little bit, but they're not even really necessary. And I think, the final takeaway of this is just, you'll get better. Some of the real top YouTube creators say, just recognize that your first 100 videos, are not going to go anywhere. They might, but don't have expectations on yourself. Just get it out there. Done is better than perfect, right? You've heard that before. And that's the hardest part is, just getting started. You know what to say, you have the tools to do it. And, every day on these social platforms, small businesses are finding new audiences. This is a golden age. You're not too late. I tell you, I think that's a common misperception too. It's just like, oh, yeah, I should have gotten on that in 2020, and now it's too late. That is not the case. So many businesses we encounter, have been thinking about it and just don't know how to get started. I know as a small business owner, you got a lot to do. There's a lot on your plate. This is like one more thing. But it's not that hard, doesn't take that long, and can really be fun. What keeps us from doing this? This is from Wistia, a video platform tailoring to small business. I mentioned some of these. I don't have any time. Well, we make time, right? You don't have time to read a book. You don't have time to make dinner. You don't have time to get your oils changed, right? Or your tires rotated, right? But we make it if it's a priority. Company size and resources, you don't need anybody else. This is just you. Cost, you're already paying for it. Technical capabilities. Hopefully I've helped you or inspired you to let you know how easy it is. There's all kinds of tutorials out there. People can do it. Lack of ideas or stories, it's about you. Just know that your experience is interesting to people. I've had clients say, oh, this is really helpful. Thank you for this, because I have to be reminded that what I do is interesting around here. Right. And that really is gold from my perspective, is that, aw shucks, humility. I do what I do because I love it. That is enough if conveyed, in an engaging, authentic way. Again, you can't fake it. People recognize it. And the goal is for somebody to see your content and go, wow, what an interesting person. If ever I need that thing, I'm going to go to that person to get it because they seem real. I can relate to that. That is the power of these platforms. Teach a man to fish, right? And that's what I really, this is our business. We help people do this. I'm happy to talk to you about ideas, strategies, that kind of stuff. But it really is about empowering small businesses to just lean in and do this and find that initial traction, that encouragement, that feedback in building a community with your customers locally and around the world. Like never before. If you really sort of think back to the technological age we are living in, it is astounding. And with AI, we can talk a little bit about in the comments and the Q&A here, but it's coming fast. But we are just scratching the surface in how a small business can leverage the power of their story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean. I think one of the things that you mentioned that a lot of people have a hard time remembering, and I think it's a really important thing, is that just because it doesn't seem interesting to you and you're in it all the time and you see what it looks like, other people find it fascinating. I know I sometimes get stuck on those manufacturing videos. They're pretty interesting.
And if you are on TikTok, like go to the live section, I'm sure you all have, and people will, hundreds of people will watch somebody doing something, the barista at the coffee shop, just working away. There's something comforting about that in this world that we live in of just sort of constant noise, to just say, hey, here's a person that's good at what they do. I'm interested in that. So yeah, very good point.
Yeah, there was a TikToker who made an entire career around just making Subway sandwiches, and people found that interesting. You
Yeah.
never
Right. That's a guy I have. He's works in a pizza place and he's on it a lot and he kind of interacts with the camera. It's like, oh, there's that guy making that pizza. And I'll spend a few minutes with him. And if he were in my town, he would be a rock star, right? That's the way it works.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, please, folks, use the Q&A panel and submit questions. We will get to them now. We had a couple of questions submitted already around the same topic. So I think this is a great time to get into that. So Dean, should footage be horizontal or vertical, or like, what is your thoughts on the difference between landscape versus portrait? We had this question come in once from Chauncey and also from another user.
I guess it depends on what your use case is. What's your primary platform and the length of your content? Horizontal. YouTube is still primarily a horizontal platform. If you're doing longer form content, if you want to illustrate a process, I would go horizontal. If you want to put it on your website, I think we're still used to seeing horizontal video there. If it's primarily social media, vertical. And I meant to look this up. The percentage of video consumed on the internet on mobile devices. I mean, we watch vertical video because that's the shape of our phones, basically. And I find it really interesting. There's an evolving aesthetic around that. Shooting for the vertical frame is interesting as an old photographer myself. It is possible, if you're shooting at higher resolution, to shoot horizontal in 4K and then crop in to a vertical orientation. But I find it hard to see that way. It's like, again, back to your frame design, it's hard to sort of see it both ways, right? Or to avoid having everything in the middle of the frame. So I would just choose one and go with it, again, depending on how you ultimately want to see it displayed.
I think that's a really good point. A lot of times when we talk about vertical, or when we talk about short form video, we're talking about that vertical style video as well. And one of the things that could be helpful for folks is in some phones, you can turn a setting on that shows the rule of thirds, and you can kind of frame that way, and that might be a good way to get started.
Yeah, in the guide, I talk about rule of thirds or leading lines. It's easier to do horizontally. Again, if
Yeah.
anyone has any photography, you're sort of trained that way to put things, in the golden areas. It's harder on a vertical frame, but still possible. And again, playing with that creativity as to how to, when you are constrained vertically, how do you really convey that in an interesting way? This is a fun challenge.
We had another question come in here, and then this might relate back to the buckets of content that you were talking about earlier. How do I come up with content ideas that narrow down what it is that I need to say?
Without knowing your business or your background, I would say ask some of your friends, ask some customers. What about my story? What would you want to know about me? Again, we hear that a lot of you're so into what you're doing that you don't really recognize the inherent interest in what it is you do. So I know that that's a block for a lot of people. I wouldn't know what to say, but it's, what are your business goals? Where have you come from? Talk about your entrepreneurial journey, right? That's easy enough. What do you do? What do you make? Talk about why you do it that way. Well, I use this kind of material for this kind of thing because of that. Well, that's a piece right there. And again, don't think of it as a big ocean that you're trying to appeal to. The algorithms will find your audience as niche as you want to get. And it's pretty amazing in that way. So just talk about what you feel comfortable with would be my encouragement, and let the algorithms do the rest. And once you start generating content, you'll start seeing what resonates with people. Oh, I got a lot of traction on that thing. I'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think as we were talking about a little bit before the workshop, sometimes it just kind of comes down to what makes you different from your competitors. I mentioned seeing a video from Nice Spice on TikTok, and it was just about why they use a certain kind of vanilla bean than another kind when they sell. And it just kind of came down to that misfit foods concept where these ones are not, the perfect looking ones that you'd see in the grocery store, so you can get a good deal on them. And that video went viral, and it was just a video talking about why we did a certain thing a different way than other people might.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't take much. It's just like, wow, what an interesting person. They clearly know what they're talking about, and that they're giving me a gift, right? That's a takeaway. It was just sort of a throwaway thought for them, perhaps, but it's just like, wow, that's a value exchange right there.
And I think you hit the nail on the head right there. They know what they're talking about. It's about that authenticity. It wasn't probably something that they planned on being a viral video. It's just they do know a lot about that subject, and people really value that.
Yeah, and that's again just to underscore that you can't plan for virality. I mean, Mr. Beast, if you're familiar with him, the biggest YouTuber in the world, he's got a whole staff, and he says, "Yes, I can, in fact, manufacture virality based on he'll spend $100,000 on a thumbnail, right? He's got it down to that. But for you and me, just do what comes naturally and let the results sort of take care of themselves. Again, it's about that consistency, just putting yourself out there. And when you least expect it, that's the one. I hear about that all the time. People's like, oh, this is a great piece of content. I spent so much time on it, and you're proud. It's just how you want it. And it sort of, falls flat versus one that's just sort of a throwaway one, goes crazy. So don't go nuts trying to figure out all that.
And we had another question come in that I think you might be uniquely suited for is any advice on introverts to getting started or those baby steps?
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting started. It's just getting started. And you can record, when you see that red plus button for record, that doesn't mean you need to post it. So you can do it over and over until it feels comfortable. You can record one long one and edit it until it's just how you want it, or you can do multiple takes. But it's just about leaning forward. Try to be an actor, just be more forward than you might be. And we can all sort of, speaking as an introvert, we can all fake it when we need to. Just do that and have fun with it.
I think that that piece of advice that you gave is really a phenomenal piece of advice. Is just because you see the red light doesn't mean that you have to post it, and you can record it as many times as you want. That is a great piece of advice.
Absolutely. Before I posted my first one, this is true, I did dozens of them in various places with different sort of personas. Am I too goofy here? Am I too serious here? I showed it to people. Hey, what do you think? And they all liked them all, right? Oh, it's just you. I was self-conscious, so yeah, you can practice as long as you want before you push upload. And I would also just say, people don't think about you as much as you think about you, right? Nobody really cares. So just go for it.
Actually, that leans really well into our next question from Hannah. If I'm at an early stage of setting up a business, how should I strategize my first 100 posts, pre-launch content versus priming customers versus launch content, etc.?
I think, think about those buckets and sort of break, real specific, you don't need to script them, but, under entertainment or biography or, just jot out, some specific topics. I mean, you can script it if you want. Some people do. But yeah, I would put a real strategy around what you want to say say it in various ways, because each of those pieces of content will go to different people in different ways. Think about the different platforms. Think about your business. Do you play better on LinkedIn, perhaps? Who's your end customer? Is there a way to figure out, and there is, where on which platforms are your customers most prevalent, and cut content to that platform. And as I say, it's great because the same piece of content can be splashed everywhere, but there are nuances, right? You can be a little more goofy on TikTok than you would on, Facebook, for instance. Subtleties.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I saw a channel on YouTube 2 days ago where this young guy was putting together. He had 11 prototypes at the time for this power washing handle. He wanted to start manufacture his own power washing handle, and he built an entire audience around just the prototyping process and started doing pre-orders off of that. And his business is already successful before he's even made one sale.
Yeah, that's really great. I'll just touch on that for a second. Just building in public. I see a lot of that. It's like, hey, it's not even necessarily a business. I just brought a Sprinter van, watch me, deck the thing out. Or I just bought a food truck, and go with them on the journey. It just develops that rooting interest, right? Again, we see ourselves, a little bit of ourselves in the lives of others. If you make it relatable and authentic, you can't fake it. And you go, wow, I've always wanted to do that. Or I have no interest in that, but this is a really likable guy and I'm interested to see what happens. That reality show arc that's possible on these platforms.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. That real deep connection that you can get from that authenticity, and why it matters so much. And feel free to keep posting some Q&A in the chat, and we're happy to get that out there. I do have one question for you, Dean.
Yeah.
And this is, let's say someone does hit that 1 in a million chance and they do go viral and they have a bunch of people coming in. Do you have any suggestions for how to handle that? Because for a lot of businesses, they can't really just take on a massive amount of capacity.
I know. And that is really, it's the downside, if there is one. I mentioned the talk about Joyce, and that was great because I would, first of all, create follow-up content, right? So you've got all these people that are interested in you, as hard as it might be during that initial rush. Go back, give them the backstory, fill them in, right? They're interested, give them more. But in many cases, it is just sort of an all hands on deck. You see it a lot with restaurants that blow up like that. It's like they're pulling in people and the kitchen is a mess. But I think, generally people are very, it's like going to a party, right? It's like they are very forgiving. They understand that they're part of a phenomenon. And, I think it'll be fun. And it generally lasts, a week maybe, and then it sort of levels off, with the consistent uptick. And then once you have that star moment, it's a matter of nurturing that audience as best you can.
I think that's a really great answer. One thing that immediately comes to mind that really kind of shows that is if Keith Lee goes to a restaurant You see sometimes the restaurants will post videos like, "Hey guys, we're trying to keep up. We really appreciate it," or they get into the story and they try to cultivate that audience. And I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one.
100%. If people don't know who Keith Lee is, just search him. He's a
Yeah.
TikTok primarily. He'll just go to a family-owned restaurant. He'll be in town. He'll, and it's a food review, but it's honest, it's authentic. He approaches it from a real, human, compassionate way. Even when it's bad, he'll just kind of say, "Oh, I have to be honest, but I'm really sorry." It's just real. And again, that if you take away one word from all of this, it's just be real and authentic, because we're tired of everything else, I would say.
And this is kind of a little bit outside of the scope of what we talked about today, but it's kind of in line with that last one. Is have you ever do you have any suggestions for kind of collaborating with folks on short form video? Maybe not the Keith Lees of the world, but other folks who might be interested in like local influencers or even kind of creating a presence like that themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities because the platforms will allow, split screen and, tagging or stitching. It's in particular on TikTok, and the algorithms will sort of group you. You'll see the same people that are interested in what you are interested in. So collaboration among creators is certainly possible. And then there are the influencers, too, that people that sort of operate in your area. I think that's waning a little bit, but people with existing followings, if you could somehow get them to notice you, that can be effective. I find, there are creators that I follow and I can tell before I look down in the corner and it says paid partnership, I can already tell, right? Because they're sort of shilling for something, and it's not that it's not effective. I saw one the other day. He's got kind of this outdoorsy, Gen Z persona, and he's right away he was pitching for North Face. He's wearing the clothes and he's going to the same character that he does with his organic content, but right away it's just like, okay, yep. I mean, I'll watch it. It got the message across, but it's not. That's the paid approach versus the organic approach of just being you for content's sake.
Yeah, I think a lot of times brands still kind of miss the mark on that when they're doing the sponsored posts. But I will say that there are a lot of brands that are getting more savvy. It's almost always small businesses where I'll get like 2/3 of the way through the video before I even realize it's a sponsored post because it looks just like normal content.
Yeah.
And a lot of small businesses are getting really good with that.
Yeah, it's true. And the larger corporations, and I've got some experience dealing with them, right? It's just a different, it's just not, it's not reality, right? They pay big retainers to big agencies, and you can hear these conversations like, "Hey, we need to be authentic. Come up with a strategy that allows us to be authentic," and it just doesn't really quite translate. So again, back to the superpower of small business and entrepreneurs. That's you have that for sure, rather than trying to manufacture it from a more corporate stance.
Yeah, we had another question come in, and this is another one of those ones where you might be uniquely suited to get a good perspective on this one. What are your thoughts on creating content for like digital services or other kind of service type products rather than something, manufacturing where you can kind of show someone the process?
You can do a lot with product demos and screenshots, and even sort of fingers on keyboards, right? And I'm working on a computer all day, but you can illustrate that digital product. Testimonials are always great, right? So even
Yeah.
if you produce a digital product, if you've got an end user out in the real world, just show them what they're doing and get a soundbite from about their experience. There are ways. If your product exists somewhere else, go somewhere else to illustrate that.
Yeah, that's all we have so far for questions. I'll give it one more second, but I just want to say thank you very much, Dean, for coming and answering our questions today and providing such a great presentation on the really from the ground up, because video production is its own whole entire industry and marketing specialty, and being able to break it down into a bite-sized chunk that a small business owner can really implement is very impressive.
I hope so. Thank you, Dan. And that's really what I hope people, just to demystify it all. And to your point, you can go as crazy into video as you want, right? That's a whole profession in itself, but it doesn't need to be. And we encounter so many small businesses that, again, feel they can't do it, feel they're late, feel that they have nothing to say, feel that they, are not good with tech. None of that is true. If you can use your phone, at your kid's birthday party, you can create content for your business.
So thanks again, Dean. We'll get an email out with the handout that you had mentioned earlier, as well as the slide deck today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot us an email. We can get them on over to Dean. And if you are looking for a little bit more help in your marketing or your business in general, please feel free to reach out for a SCORE mentor as well. We're here for the life of your business. And I want to just say thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.